So the occult community and Anton LaVey. In the occult community, there's pretty much two factions with LaVey. There's the one faction that kind of gives him the respect as being kind of the grandfather of Satanism. And then there's the other faction that's kind of, basically thinks that he's either a charlatan, just basically a clone of Crowley, or a trickster, or, even a womanizer, or a sexist. Which I always thought was funny, since he wrote a book in the 70s called The Satanic Witch, which was a book to help women empower themselves, by using their femininity to their advantage, and how to read and manipulate and seduce men in order to get ahead in society. So it always cracks me up that, when I read or hear somebody say something about LaVey being a sexist and a pig and stuff like that. Anyway, because he was a big fan of women. Anyway, the way I kind of look at that is, you don't have to, be a LaVeyan Satanist per se and agree with everything Anton LaVey says in order to give the man the respect that I think he deserves. I don't agree with everything he says. Some of it's outdated, some of it's a little, doesn't really apply in modern times. Some of it's just kind of impractical. That's not to say that I think it's all bullshit. I think the majority of what he wrote was great. And even though he did plagiarize some things, some things, that's well known. It doesn't discredit what he did for Satanism, though. Just because everything he said and wrote wasn't 100% unique, wasn't 100% his own, doesn't mean that what he did do is irrelevant. Because what he did do is he ushered in an interest into the occult. He helped package and codify a group of principles, philosophy, and even on an occult or magic level, helped codify that into a single source and opened up, hundreds of thousands of people to the idea of occultism, if not millions. And that is what he should be best known for. He also should be best known for creating an established philosophy/religion, which, if you want to call it that, it is a recognized religion. So that is basically the anti-religion. There's no other religion that I can think of in modern day that stands up in defiance against right-hand path or God-based religions, other than Satanism. And if there is, they're kind of obscure. So for that, I think he should be given respect. Also for being kind of the doorman, for holding the door open for others to come forward and express their view that it's okay. And a lot of other occultists came forward and got popular because LaVey made it so. When I say mainstream, I don't mean in a negative way. I don't mean like mainstream as in like diluted it to the point to be popular. I mean mainstream in the sense where he brought it from out of the darkness. What was once dark and basically unknown, truly occult, he brought up into the light. And that turned a lot of people on. I remember reading the Satanic Bible when I was 13 or 14. And I remember that was the first time I read any book, philosophical book, in my life. I know I was very young, but I had already read, a handful, and I'd already studied certain religions and stuff. This is the first time I read a book about philosophy and religion that really resonated with me. I read it, and it was like, wow, this is actually a book that, it makes a lot of sense. It describes how I feel and how I see the world. It's no bullshit. It basically says, you should live your life to the fullest and be happy, and anybody who stands in your way, fuck them. It says obviously a lot more than that, but that's what I got out of it when I was 13 or 14. And that's exactly what I needed in order to establish myself as an individual, as an identity as a Satanist too, which helped me to break free from my Catholic upbringing. So there's a means to some of that campiness. There's a means, there's intent, and it was done with awareness. That's why I think you see a lot of the pomp and a lot of the, exaggerated theatrical Halloweeny shit within Satanism is because at a certain person's point in their development philosophically or religiously, right, if they're trying to break free from religious trappings, say like Catholicism, right, they have a lot of anti-Catholicism, imagery and stuff like that, in their capes and their robes and the sinister look and stuff. That all plays a part. It all plays a part in helping the individual free themselves from what they know. It helps them to remove themselves from that environment. So in that sense, LaVey did, wonders. And he's definitely a man. He was not just a, even if you think he's a charlatan and a hoaxer, which he was, not a charlatan, but he was kind of a trickster on some things. He did exaggerate some of his stories, but who doesn't? And what he did with awareness, he did with intent, and he was very successful at it. The guy was a master manipulator, and not manipulator in a bad way, but he was definitely a magician in many different ways. And for that, he did everything with awareness. And if you doubt that, take a look at the Satanic Witch. Look in the bibliography of the Satanic Witch. Look at the books in there. Those books that he read, that he recommended, that helped develop basically an understanding and a formula of lesser magic. And that was genius. And if you see the titles in those books in there, you'll have a good understanding of how seriously in depth this guy was. So there it is. That's that's where Anton LaVey stands in my mind. And that's where he stands in the occult community between the two factions. So, in case you were wondering. Also, it's interesting to note that with LaVey, a lot of his detractors, I'd say 90% of his detractors, are not objective scholar types that are trying to set the record straight. 90% of his detractors, came out after he was already dead and couldn't defend himself, okay? Which is pretty fucking cowardly. 2, or B, 90% of them have something that they're selling. They have the new and improved version of Satanism, or their organization, So it's like, keep that in mind. It's one thing if somebody is like objective about it and says like, okay, well, these are the facts. This is what he said. This is what the facts are. This is, But it's another thing when they're just kind of painting the facts as they go to make their own organization and their own package of bullshit more sellable by shitting on him now that he's dead and can't defend himself. Those are the guys I don't like. And there's no shortage of those guys. And I used to go to bat and, step up to the plate and beat those guys down with truth, but it's not worth it anymore. Most of those guys went exactly where they deserve to be, nowhere.